Welcome to Godless and Grounded.
There is something very interesting about human beings. When we grow up inside a belief system, we often accept strange ideas without ever asking where those ideas came from or why they were created. Many Muslims confidently defend stories that sound completely normal to them, but if the same stories came from another religion, they would immediately call them foolish, illogical, and impossible. This is the power of cultural conditioning. When a myth is wrapped in the cloth of faith, it often escapes the filter of common sense. Today we will look at some myths that many Muslims strongly believe even though these stories raise many logical questions. One very common myth is the idea that jinns live among humans and watch us every moment. Many Muslims grow up hearing that invisible creatures made from fire follow them, whisper to them, walk inside their homes, and sometimes even fall in love with them. Yet the same people will laugh when a Hindu says a ghost possessed someone, or when a Christian says a demon attacked their house. When the story belongs to their own religion, it suddenly becomes sacred truth. But the logic remains the same. If such creatures existed, we would have at least some form of evidence. There would be no need for hidden cameras or ghost hunting because these beings would have left measurable footprints on the world. Science has discovered bacteria, viruses, atoms, black holes, and gravitational waves, but it has never found a single trace of a jinn. Muslims accept that animals are made from cells, rocks from minerals, and the universe from particles. Yet they believe a creature made from fire can hold objects, speak languages, and shape-shift like a cartoon character. No one asks how a being made from fire can sit on a chair without burning it, or why a creature with supernatural abilities does not appear in front of a camera. Another myth that is widely repeated is the story of flying horses. In Islamic tradition, the Prophet is believed to have traveled across the sky riding a winged creature that was faster than any aircraft today. Many Muslims recite this story with pride. Yet if someone from Greek mythology said that Zeus rode a flying horse, they would call it a legend. When Muslims hear about the Hindu god traveling on a giant eagle, they say it is fantasy. But when their own story involves a flying animal who takes a man from Mecca to Jerusalem, and then to heaven within a single night, it becomes a symbol of faith. If a human rode any creature at such a speed, the body would be destroyed instantly by physical forces. Planes require oxygen supply, pressure control, and thermal protection. But when the story comes from religion, all the laws of nature magically stop applying. Many Muslims never question why God, who can take someone anywhere instantly, needed to use a horse-like creature at all. They never ask how the trip left no physical record. They simply believe it because they were told to believe it. There is also a widespread belief that the Quran contains every kind of scientific knowledge hidden within its verses. Muslims claim that the book predicted the Big Bang, embryology, expansion of the universe, and many other scientific discoveries. Yet when you actually read the verses, the language is vague, poetic, and open to dozens of interpretations. If someone says the mountains are like pegs, believers claim that this is a prediction about tectonic plates, even though mountains do not stabilize the earth and often form due to instability. If a verse says that everything was joined together, they call it the Big Bang, even though many other ancient cultures spoke of creation from a single source. The Greeks, the Egyptians, the Hindus, and even tribal religions have similar ideas. Muslims accept these scientific miracles only after science discovers something first. Then scholars rewrite the verses to fit modern findings. If the text already contained these facts, Muslims would have used the book to discover them before scientists did. But this never happened because the verses were not describing science in the first place. Many Muslims also believe that angels stand around every person, recording every small action like celestial surveillance cameras. These angels supposedly keep a perfect record of every step, every word, every thought, and every mistake. But the same people also claim that God already knows everything. If God knows everything that humans do, why would he need two extra beings to write down what he already knows? Why create a cosmic bureaucracy? Why send angels to record things that are already visible to an all-knowing God? If a teacher already knows every answer, they do not need someone else to write it down. Yet believers accept both ideas without noticing the contradiction. A very popular myth in Muslim societies is that every bad event is a test from God, and every good event is also a test from God. If a child dies, it is a test. If a person survives, it is a test. If someone is rich, it is a test. If someone is poor, it is also a test. When everything can be explained as a test, then nothing is ever explained. This belief removes the need to understand the real causes of events. If a disease spreads, instead of studying viruses, people say God is testing us. If corruption destroys a country, people say it is a test, instead of looking at human decisions and leadership failures. The idea of constant testing makes life look like a school exam, where no one knows the questions and no one knows the marking scheme. This belief only survives because people are taught to link everything to divine intention. When the cause of an event is always God, then real solutions are never found. Another common myth is the belief that every person will be judged by how many prayers they performed, how much charity they gave, or how much Arabic they memorized. Many Muslims think that a person who commits terrible crimes can still enter paradise if he repents or performs certain rituals before death. Meanwhile, a kind and honest person who simply did not believe the religion will be punished forever. This creates a moral system where belief matters more than behavior. A murderer who says a prayer is forgiven, but a kind atheist who helps poor people is punished forever. This idea does not match any sense of fairness that humans naturally understand. If a judge on earth behaved like this, people would call him corrupt. But when the same injustice is described as God's justice, believers accept it without question. There is also a famous myth that the Quran is perfectly preserved word for word, and that not a single letter has changed in 1400 years. Many Muslims say this with complete confidence, yet scholars have documented multiple early manuscripts that differ from one another. There are different readings, different recitation methods, and recorded historical disputes about which version should be standardized. Even Islamic history books describe how the third caliph ordered all other Quran copies to be burned, so that only one standard version would remain. If a text needed editing and burning of old copies, that means differences already existed. But believers ignore all of this because they grew up hearing that the text is perfect, so any evidence that threatens this belief is pushed aside. Another myth that influences millions of Muslims is the belief that everything in life is already written by God. At the same time, they believe humans are responsible for their actions. This creates a strange confusion. If God has already written destiny, then a thief steals because destiny made him steal. A murderer kills because destiny made him kill. Yet the same system punishes him for following a script he never wrote. If an author writes a story where a character becomes a villain, no one blames the character, they blame the author. But when destiny controls a human life, the blame still goes to the human. Muslims defend this by saying that humans have free will, but free will cannot exist if destiny is fixed. You cannot be held responsible for something that you were written to do before your birth. Many Muslims also believe that miracles happened frequently in ancient times, but have suddenly stopped in the modern world. Prophets split the moon, water flowed from fingertips, stones spoke, trees moved, and food appeared out of nowhere. But none of these events occur today, even though billions of cameras are ready to record anything unusual. Believers claim that miracles only happened in the past to prove the truth of religion. But if God wanted people to believe, miracles would be more effective today than ever before. A single recorded miracle would convince billions. Yet the world is silent. No moon splits. No staff turns into a snake. No sea opens. Believers say that God will not show miracles because people are too stubborn. But this excuse ignores the fact that people in the past were also stubborn. They also doubted. They also demanded proof. The only difference is that ancient people lacked scientific knowledge, so they accepted supernatural explanations for natural events. Another popular myth is the belief that the day of judgment will come when certain supernatural signs appear. Many Muslims repeat stories of the sun rising from the west, beasts coming from the earth, talking stones, and giant smoke covering the world. These stories are believed even though there is no evidence for them. If the sun ever reversed direction, the entire solar system would collapse. A beast emerging from the earth and talking to humans contradicts everything we know about biology. These myths survive because they are told as sacred predictions. People are scared to question them because they believe their faith will weaken if they do. Many Muslims also believe the myth that the universe was created in 6 days, even though the understanding of time itself only exists when the universe exists. The idea of a day depends on the rotation of the earth around its axis. If the earth did not yet exist, then the word day has no meaning. This story is a copy of many ancient myths that describe creation in a fixed number of days. The Babylonians had a 7-day creation story. The Jews had a similar story. The Arabs heard these myths long before scientific knowledge existed. Today we know that the universe is almost 14 billion years old, and that stars, planets, and galaxies formed over huge periods of time. Yet many Muslims still repeat the idea of 6 days because it is part of tradition. When something is holy, it becomes immune to correction. A related myth is the belief that sacred water or sacred objects can heal diseases. Many Muslims buy water from religious sites, believing that it has healing power. They carry amulets written by religious clerics, believing that the paper has magical protection. Some even write verses on water and make people drink it, claiming that it will cure illnesses. Yet hospitals are still full of Muslim patients. If sacred objects were truly effective, Muslim communities would have the lowest rate of disease, but that is not the case. Diseases spread according to biological rules, not according to verses written on paper. Many people delay real medical treatment because they believe in spiritual cures, and that sometimes costs lives. There is also the common belief that certain religious scholars can interpret dreams and predict the future through visions. Many Muslims think that dreams contain messages from the divine world. If they see water in a dream, someone tells them it means wealth. If they see snakes, someone says it means enemies. If they see dead relatives, someone says it means blessings or warnings. These interpretations change from one culture to another, yet believers treat them as universal truth. In reality, dreams are simply the brain processing memories and emotions. They have no magical connection to the future. If dreams truly predicted future events, religious scholars would be the richest and most powerful people on earth. They would win lotteries, prevent disasters, and make perfect decisions. But their accuracy is no better than random chance. Many Muslims also believe the myth that paradise is a physical place filled with material pleasures designed exactly according to human desires on earth. They imagine rivers of milk and honey, palaces made of gold, wine that causes no hangover, and endless physical rewards. This description looks like something made by ancient people who lived in deserts, where water and shade were luxuries. If paradise were described to a modern human with access to technology, it would likely include things like travel across galaxies or advanced forms of joy that go beyond physical desires. The paradise described in religious texts matches the imagination of the 7th century, not the understanding of modern reality. Yet believers accept the description as perfect because they believe the text comes from an all-knowing source. Another irrational myth is the belief that the Prophet performed miracles like splitting the moon. Many Muslims believe that the moon physically broke into 2 pieces and then rejoined. Yet no historian outside Islamic tradition recorded such an event. No civilization at that time wrote about it. The Chinese, who were experts at observing the sky, did not record it. The Indians did not record it. The Greeks did not record it. The moon itself shows no sign of ever being split. The surface of the moon has been studied through satellites, telescopes, and samples brought back by astronauts. If such a massive event had taken place, there would be physical evidence. But there is none. Instead, people accept the story because it was told by ancestors. Tradition is more powerful than evidence in the minds of many people. Many Muslims believe that the dead can hear them when they speak at graves. They believe that the buried body, which is decomposing, can still perceive the words of the living. But if human consciousness is tied to the brain, and the brain is no longer functioning after death, then the idea of communication makes no sense. Some scholars also say that the dead feel the pain of footsteps above their graves. This idea creates unnecessary fear in people. It reproduces the ancient belief that spirits linger near the physical body. Yet no evidence supports this. It is simply a myth that survives through emotional attachment to loved ones. Another myth is the idea that everything religious is automatically moral, and everything outside religion is immoral. Many Muslims believe that morality comes from religion alone. Yet the same religion allowed slavery, allowed war captives, allowed wives to be beaten lightly, allowed sex with female captives, and allowed child marriage in history. If morality depended entirely on religion, then these controversial practices would still be considered acceptable. But modern morality evolved beyond ancient rules. Society now values human rights, consent, equality, and compassion. These values come from human progress, not from scripture. Yet many Muslims still claim that their religion is the source of all morality. Many Muslims believe that non-Muslims are enemies of God, and that eternal punishment waits for those who follow other faiths. This belief creates division and discrimination. Children grow up fearing people of other religions. They believe that all good deeds done by non-Muslims are worthless. Yet human kindness does not depend on belief. A Christian doctor can save a Muslim child. An atheist scientist can create medicine that saves millions of Muslim lives. A Hindu teacher can educate a Muslim student. But the myth that belief is everything creates a narrow view of humanity. It divides the world into us and them. It limits compassion and creates unnecessary fear. There is also a myth that religious clerics have special authority and spiritual power. Many Muslims think that clerics can see the unseen, interpret hidden knowledge, and speak on behalf of God. But clerics are just humans with opinions shaped by their environment. They do not have supernatural insight. Their interpretations often conflict with each other. Some clerics encourage peace while others encourage violence. Some allow scientific progress while others reject it. If clerics truly had divine guidance, their opinions would be consistent. But they differ on every major topic because they are guided by personal belief, not supernatural knowledge. A deeply rooted myth is the belief that Islamic history was perfect, and that early Muslims lived in an ideal society. Many Muslims imagine the early Islamic community as a place with perfect justice, perfect peace, and perfect harmony. But history shows that there were political conflicts, assassinations, civil wars, and power struggles among the earliest followers. Leaders fought for authority. Entire groups were killed over disagreements. But believers prefer a romantic version of the past where everything was pure and ideal. This myth protects the religion from criticism by creating an image of a golden age that never really existed. Another myth is that Islamic law is perfect for all times, even though the modern world is completely different from the world of the 7th century. Ancient laws were made for a tribal society with no technology, no global economy, and no human rights framework. Yet many Muslims believe that old rules about inheritance, marriage, slavery, warfare, and social structure must still apply today. This creates contradiction when people try to fit ancient laws into modern life. They accept laws designed for a completely different world and try to force them into the present. Instead of questioning whether the laws need to evolve, they justify every rule by calling it divine. Many Muslims believe that speaking or questioning religious stories will bring supernatural harm. They are taught from childhood that questioning is dangerous. They fear punishment just for thinking differently. This fear blocks curiosity and encourages blind acceptance. A belief system that discourages questions is protecting itself, not the truth. If something is true, it does not fear examination. Perhaps the greatest myth of all is the belief that faith is superior to evidence. Many Muslims are taught that believing without proof is a virtue. They see doubt as weakness instead of seeing it as a natural tool for discovering truth. They do not ask why the world is full of suffering if a merciful God controls everything. They do not ask why prayers fail. They do not ask why miracles never happen today. They do not ask why so many religious stories resemble myths from older cultures. They believe because they are told that belief itself is the highest achievement. But human progress has always come from people who questioned myths. Science advanced because people challenged old ideas. Medicine progressed because people stopped believing in magical healing and started studying real biology. Rights improved because people challenged ancient rules and demanded fairness. Every improvement in human life came from breaking free of old myths. The purpose of examining these irrational beliefs is not to insult anyone, but to show that humans often accept ideas without evidence simply because these ideas are wrapped in sacred tradition. When people step back and look at these stories as outsiders, the irrational parts become clear. Logical thinking is not the enemy of spirituality. It is the tool that helps us understand the world as it truly is. Myths survive only when people stop questioning. The moment people start using reason, the myths lose their power.